Hello everybody, welcome again to my channel. I want to talk a little bit about the November 2016 JW Broadcasting. In this broadcasting episode, Garrett Loesch starts out by talking about being champions of truth. He then goes into great detail identifying different levels of lies, different types of lies, and the severity of lies. He therefore would be very much so in the understanding that to hide your own past in an attempt to deceive people into following you would be considered a malicious lie. Yet, for some reason, this is exactly what the Watchtower does. In their most current version of their own history, the God's Kingdom Rules book, I believe it is, they misrepresent, purposefully so, what Charles Taze Russell used to teach, and they even misrepresent what Rutherford taught in the early days of the Watchtower organization. Rutherford taught that Armageddon would end in 1914. He set out some very specific things that were to be expected to occur, none of which occurred. The only thing that's consistent with Russell's predictions is that they were all wrong. None of them came true, and he issued those predictions saying that he was God's mouthpiece. So now they say that the Bible students at that time didn't know what to expect in 1914, but they expected something big, or that they were looking for the presence of Jesus. But Russell taught that Jesus had been present since 1878. So they thought Jesus was already present invisibly. So the Watchtower currently maliciously lies about their past. And we have Garrett Loesch maliciously lying in front of all of Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't know how many more witnesses to his dishonesty you would need to form a judicial committee, but there you have it. So this whole thing just struck me as very odd. I literally couldn't get my head around the idea that he would be out there describing what a lie is and claiming, telling people to be champions of truth, when you cannot talk about truthful things with Jehovah's Witnesses. For example, historically speaking, there is a mountain of evidence that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt when Jerusalem was destroyed, and it is not 607. You cannot talk about that honest evidence with Jehovah's Witnesses without being considered a bad person. They refuse to allow you to champion truth. They refuse to allow you to talk about other truthful things, such as the Australian Royal Commission and the findings that had about the number of children that have been molested in just Australia. Truthful things scare the Watchtower. They are not champions of the truth. So by Garrett Loesch's own description, well, you can figure out which side they're on. Anyways, so he described 5 reasons why he knows that they have the truth. He said that they remain in Jesus' teachings. That is not true. For example, Jesus commanded his followers to partake of his blood and of his flesh. And of course, as Jehovah's Witnesses, once a year they get together and they have a big celebration where everybody, except a select few, the 144,000, reject Jesus' blood and Jesus' flesh. So I don't know how it is he thinks that they're staying in the teachings of Jesus. Jesus never told people to record the amount of time they knock on doors. Jesus, when he went places, the first thing he did was miracles. He cured the sick, he fed people, then he preached. The Watchtower is the other way. They preach first and pretty much never do anything for anybody unless they're going to become a witness. So I don't know how he thinks they're remaining in the teachings of Jesus. His second point is a deep bond of love. Well, I had been one of Jehovah's Witnesses for over 30 years, and there are truly some very loving people that are Jehovah's Witnesses, but there are many that are not. The deep bond of love is not what you'd expect. There are some pretty mean people, some pretty nasty people that are Jehovah's Witnesses, but that's true in all walks of life. There are good and bad people everywhere. In my experience, there's a lot stronger bond of love between people that are not Jehovah's Witnesses than there is between people that are Jehovah's Witnesses. So again, I don't believe that there's a significant difference here, or that would identify them as having the truth, or if there is a difference, it would actually more so identify them as not having the truth. Then he talks about their good conduct. Well, the Australian Royal Commission showed very much so that they're willing to shelter people who are carrying on absolutely abhorrent conduct. So, it's really, their good conduct is nothing more than a show. They do everything to hide what they're really doing so that it looks like they have good conduct. Therefore, this certainly cannot be proof that they have truth. Then his fourth point is that they remain neutral. Well, I'll give them that. They don't fight wars, but the Bible in Romans does say that God gave the superior authorities the sword for a reason. So you can interpret that as you like. The Bible doesn't necessarily say not to defend yourself when attacked, and sometimes this happens on a national level. So as far as that, you can think of that what you want. Then number 5, he says that they're God's name people because they carry the name Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, that is laughably stupid because God's real name is not Jehovah. The most accurate translation of the Tetragrammaton is agreed almost universally, or shall we say by the vast majority of scholars, to be Yahweh. And on top of this, that Tetragrammaton is not found in the Greek scriptures. Jehovah's Witnesses have reinserted it there. Philippians tells us that the name that should be important to Christians is that of Jesus Christ. So carrying the name Jehovah is in no way, shape, or form proof that your beliefs are true. In fact, it is actually proof positive that you are being misled by someone that is telling you that a name is more important than it is. So he said some other interesting things, that Jesus said the truth will set you free, and it will set you free from false teachings. Well, if that's the case, this is why the Watchtower is so scared of the truth, because they don't want people to be free from their false teachings. And on top of that, when you're a witness, you're motivated by fear, guilt, and oftentimes shame into doing more of their activities. And they make you feel as if you're never doing enough. And it's a very heavy burden to carry. I carried it for over 3 decades. I know what it feels like. When I stopped carrying that burden, I felt far more free than I ever did as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So at some point along the way, I didn't take a note of when this was, but Garrett Loesch said that the faithful and discreet slave is not inspired, and that they therefore get things wrong sometimes. So I agree with them there. They're not inspired, but the problem is if they're not inspired, they can't ask you to trust them, to be faithful to them. So when they're not inspired, when they teach things that you can see to be clearly wrong, you therefore should not be under any obligation to follow them. But here's the point, is when they teach things that you know to be wrong, they act as if they are inspired. They act as if disagreeing with them is disagreeing with God. So this is one of those things where Garrett Loesch is trying to have it both ways. You just can't. Either they're inspired and you should follow them, or they're not inspired and you are free to disagree with them because they have no special authority. So this is an evidence of a level of hypocrisy that is a deep vein that runs through the entire teachings of the Watchtower. So then, though, he makes a claim that they're the only people that have the truth, or that they have the only truth, which is essentially like claiming to be inspired. So you'll notice this a lot from Watchtower. They speak out of both sides of their mouth. They say 2 different things about the same thing. They say that they're not inspired, but they expect you to treat them as if they are inspired, which is like saying they're inspired. So they try to have it both ways. This coming from someone who was talking about being a champion of truth. And then he does not allow you to discuss truthful things. So following up this interesting discourse on truth, which is coming from somebody who I consider to be a compulsive liar, is kind of interesting. Anyways, they go right into the video on how to shun your children. So they set up this scenario where you see this child waking up to the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses have been lying to him for a long time. You see him trying to reason with his parents, and they don't listen to him, and he gets disgusted and walks off. For those of us who have ever tried to talk to an indoctrinated Jehovah's Witness, we know the feeling. We know that they refuse to use logic or reason. They refuse to see things that are right in front of their face. We know what that poor boy that was going through when he was trying to help his parents. And then he writes them a letter. We're never told what the contents are, but they wind up disfellowshipping him. Or they may have considered him to have disassociated himself. Never once in the video are we told that he's doing anything wrong. They at one point say that he's not living the way Jehovah wants, but they don't specifically say what he's doing. There's nothing in the scriptures that say that you should shun people that disagree with the teachings of a publishing corporation. So They're telling you here not even to inquire into what he had done. They're not being champions of truth. They're being champions of dishonesty there. They're hiding the truth. They're refusing to allow you to know why you should not be talking to this person. And basically they're slandering that person, saying that he's doing something evil without giving any proof of it. I cannot picture a way to be more of a champion of dishonesty than the way that video is presented. Then they take it to extremes. The boy, at this time a grown man, texts his mom. Pretty much it looks like he tells her he loves her, but they don't really show any words. They blur it out and make it difficult to see. The mother does not even respond to the text. How cold and unfeeling is that? And ironically, in this video, you can see how much the parents are hurt by having to follow the rules of this dishonest publishing corporation this way. It's a very big strain on them. It's hard, but it's worse on their son because he's awake. He's out probably living a great life. He's got his freedom, and his parents are still shackled. So that video tells you everything you need to know about the type of group that Jehovah's Witnesses are. And then they flash forward to a time 5 years in the future when they still haven't been able to emotionally abuse their son into returning to their beliefs. Nonetheless, they continue shunning him, and they continue to spread the word of the publishing corporation that says that they're not inspired but acts as if they are when you disagree with them. So, lots of interesting points to take away from the JW Broadcasting. To those who have a healthy view of reality, who are interested in truth and honesty, this is a good section to watch because it shows exactly the type of organization that the Watchtower is. It shows why they are so dangerous, it shows why they are so harmful, and it shows what they do to families. So, that's my video for this time. Thanks for watching.